G'day everybody, it's Dan here at Pilates with Dan for a tutorial lesson. Today's tutorial lesson is about the 100. And the 100 is an exercise that's well loved here at the studio. We use it in just about every lesson. And I thought I'd sort of break down a few things, especially for all our new students here, just to try and help them understand it a little bit more. It is an exercise that comes from the classical repertoire, and here at Pilates with Dan we teach it in a few different ways depending on your skill level, depending on what's going on with your body on any given day. But I feel it's a really important exercise to include in your Pilates lesson. Okay, so that's why we do it all the time. Okay, so we'll break it down a little bit. So I've got a little reference sheet taken from Joseph's book, Return to Life, and where he describes the 100 and sort of prescribes how to do it. So I might include these notes in the text below, just so you've got something to have a look at. It's kind of interesting. You'll know that I teach a contemporary form of Pilates, but I try and dip into as many of the classical exercises as I can. So that's why we sometimes teach it in a classical way. So, first things first, presuming you know nothing about the 100, okay, it is an exercise that is designed to warm up your body and start to get your breath going and your blood pumping. So Joseph was a big fan of moving blood around your body and also breathing. So the first thing he would give you would be the 100 quite often, is what I've heard. And if you look at the classical order of the mat work, it is the number one exercise, so the first exercise that you do. So it is an important one, and it's kind of like it kind of sets the scene for what's going to happen for the rest of the lesson. Okay, so think of it as kind of like okay, this is what my body's doing today, wow, I'm tight here, or I need more work here. So it's kind of allows the teacher to have a look at how you're moving, and also allows you to sort of think about how you're feeling in your body that day. Is how I view it. Okay. The other thing that I emphasize in my lessons here is breathing. Okay, which sounds odd, especially as a new, if you're a new person. But the breathing in the 100 is something that I want you to focus more on, rather than trying to count to 100 beats. Okay, so quite often I teach that you just want to have 10 complete breaths, inhaling as deeply as you can, exhaling as deeply as you can. If you have the cadence of the beats with the 100 at a good tempo, you're going to get to about 100 beats anyway. If it's 99, it's 99. If it's 101, it's okay too. So, the way I look at it is you're trying to get your breath happening, and so as you're doing this, as you're practicing this, think about the breath. Okay, if even to the point as a beginner, if you're simply holding a position and breathing, that can be your 100 that day. Okay, so that's something to think about as well. Okay, all right. So first of all, we're going to have a look at the classical version, and then what I'll do is kind of break it down a little bit and show you some of the other versions that we do. Okay, so the classical version, you'll be laying down on your back. And the idea here is that you want good alignment, so you feel straight, okay? And then you're going to come up to the chest lift and then bring the legs up as you beat. And you'd hold that position for 100 beats as you're breathing slowly with that breath, okay? So that version, that's what we do in the more advanced classes here at Pilates with Dan. And based on your own background, you may need to modify that. So in the beginners level classes, the first thing we teach to get you ready for the position is getting your head and chest up. Okay, so staying with the legs out straight, we take the hands up. So instead of starting here, we take the hands up and the hands push down as you come up. And we'll teach it here. So notice that the hands are lower by the side. The movement of the arms is a little bit smaller than we had with our more classical version. Okay? What we're trying to do is just introduce the movement. Okay? The goal is to definitely do the more advanced version over time. So things to think about with that position is getting the head and chest up as high as you can. For many people starting out doing the 100, the first thing they quite often complain about is a tightness or soreness in the neck. And it's usually because, not always, but usually because instead of bringing the head and chest up to here, you're more here. Okay, so that angle creates that tension. So it's just basic physics. If the head is further back on the neck, these muscles are going to work harder and going to give you that tension. So if you find that is you, and that when you do the 100 that you're feeling a lot of tension in the neck, have a look at your chest lift position. Chances are it's not up high enough. Okay, so to practice or help you move that, we have the exercise, the chest lift, where the hands are back behind the head and you're practicing coming up into that position. So if you've been around for a little while and you're still finding that the 100 is not, it is too much in the neck, have a look at your chest lift position. Practice your chest lift getting up higher. Okay? Neck tension is quite often not about abdominal strength. Well, it's a little bit about that, but it's probably more to do with your tightness in your back and not being able to come up higher. Okay, so that's one little tip. Okay, so if you're feeling neck tension, come up higher. Don't go down lower. That's just going to create more tension. Okay, and if you have your body down, you're not doing the 100. Okay, so you may be just beating your arms and breathing, and that's okay, but be aware that that is not what our goal is. Okay, the goal is to give you that height so you can maintain your position. Okay, if you're practicing the 100 and the legs are on the floor, get high with the chest lift, because eventually I'm going to ask you to bring the legs up. Okay, so that's the first version, and we usually do that in week 2, the second Pilates class, beginners class in mat work. Okay, so we'll do the 100 with the legs out straight. Progressing from there, and this is where the contemporary side of Pilates comes in a little bit, doing it with bent legs. So there's a little precursor exercise, which is the tabletop position, where we'll ask you to bring the legs up and up so that the legs are in a bit of a hook-like position. It is only, the goal here with that precursor exercise is to get you used to having the legs in the air and the pelvis stable, okay? Which is useful because many people come to Pilates with back pain issues and hip issues and things like that. Okay, so it's designed to get you used to that position, but always with the mind that we're going to take you into the 100 and the other abdominal exercises that Pilates is known for. Okay, so the tabletop 100, which is commonly called the basic 100 in many contemporary schools, your hands will be here, you will come up and you'll continue to do your beats. Okay? Now that's fine. It's as a step to go towards the full 100. Okay? So that's another version that you'll see in the studio. The next version, we take that into straight legs, okay? And you can break it down. I mean, you can break all these things down bit by bit if you need to practice, okay? So the idea here is that once somebody is ready and their 100s are looking very stable, they've got the height with the chest lift, they're not getting lots of neck tension as they do their beats, we might ask for their hands to come up higher, the beat to go slower. So again, we're sort of mirroring that classical position a little bit with our upper bodies. Then we'll ask for the legs to go straight. Okay? And then as you get stronger, we ask the legs to go down. Okay? And around about 45 degrees, that's where we stop advancing that exercise. The idea of the 45-degree angle leg position probably comes from a dancer sort of background, where they're trying to get strong through their legs so they can do all those high kick positions and things like that. It's not a classical position. Okay? The classical position is where you start off flat and bring the legs up only a little bit. Okay? The legs are out straight, and believe it or not, it's actually less leg work when they're lower. This is one of those weird things, right? It's a lot more sort of lower powerhouse, as is commonly coined, work rather than leg work. Okay, so once someone is strong enough to do the 45-degree version, that's kind of where we sit for a little while. Okay, and then we can add variations with magic circles and Swiss balls, and instead of beating the arms, beating the legs. All those, they're simply choreography. They're simply just to give you some variations and working on a theme. But the ultimate goal in terms of the classes that we teach here at Pilates with Dan is to kind of be more like Joe. Okay, so go back to a lower position. The reason is basically all I want to do is warm up your body and give you a sense of where you are in space. If you're at 45 degrees, it can be a little bit too leg dominant for some people, okay? And that's all. That's the only reason. I just want you to experience your body in movement and how it's feeling that day. Now that being said, some days are going to work better than others. Some days, instead of going low, we're going to go high to give us some variation. Some days, your body's just not going to give you that range of motion, okay? So that's why we have lots of variations. What I would say is continue practicing your 100. Try to do it almost on a daily basis if you can. It is a really short, beautiful exercise that's going to kind of give you an idea of self on any given day. And keep practicing and watch that head position. The idea is that you may not get there today, but you will get there over time. Okay, so good luck with your practice. Make sure you hit subscribe to continue on with some of the other tutorial lessons that we're going to have on the channel. And I'll see you in the studio real soon.